This is our home. And at the end of the season, history will be made here. But this place is so much more than that. This is our playground. It's our crew. And after a year of facing our challenges head on, this is where the road runs out.
The Super Bowl's in Tampa next year. I mean, let's just lay it all out there on the line. If this happens for Tampa, it would be just monumental.
Tampa Bay is no stranger to this moment.
Woo! What's that buck?
We all know about struggle, and we know how to overcome.
Coast to coast, running.
When we raise the flags, we know what's at stake.
Right here. We didn't want to go out there and make it happen.
After all, this was never meant to be easy.
The road to playoffs start tonight. How bad y'all want it? No excuses, man. If you don't make the first play, make the next 3 plays, all right? They got the field us today. All day. Let's go. All day.
For the originals, for the legends, and for everyone who's waited long enough.
Go play our ass off. Let's go. Cut it loose. Brady goes deep. What a throw. What a catch. And it's intercepted. Jason Pierre-Paul high-stepping it down the sideline. And Rodgers is still on his feet. And he gets that. A leaping interception from Levante David. You got to seize this moment, dog.
So pack your strength, your giddy up, and finish the ride. Together, let's raise them up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports. And what an unbelievable show we have for you tonight. Just an unbelievable show. We're going to talk all Buccaneers tonight, and the next 2 nights, we're going to break down this game between your Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington football team. And we're going to have special guests, both from Washington, also from Tampa Bay. Tomorrow night, we're going to have a very, very special guest you all know, you all love, one of the most famous people in the Tampa Bay area, and we'll announce that a little bit later in the show. But tonight, in about 25 minutes, we're going to have Chris Couch Coach Powell with us. He's the host of Couch Coach Live. He's the owner of Couch Coach Live, and he does a podcast for the Washington football team. So we'll ask him some questions. We'll ask him some things that about the Washington team. So stay tuned tonight. Just an unbelievable interview. Everything you want to know about this game the next 2 nights here on Frankly Speaking Sports. We want to remind you that we are coming live to you from our ApexGiftCard.com studios. If you're looking for a gift card, whether it's for a department store, a restaurant, or whatever it may be, maybe even a movie to take your wife or girlfriend out, go to ApexGiftCard.com. That's right. You go there, and in the promo code, type in Frankly Speaking as one word with a capital F at the beginning, and they'll give you 10% off all your discount needs. That's ApexGiftCard.com. Proud sponsor of Frankly Speaking Sports. I want to get right into this. A lot's being said, a lot's going on this week in regards to this game coming up between your Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington football team. I keep saying the Redskins here, so I do apologize. We're going to hear from Tom Brady in a little bit. We got a couple different press conferences, but as we get into Tom Brady, I want to talk about Tom Brady a minute because there's quite a few things about Tom Brady that disturbs me in the Tampa Bay area is how people in the Tampa Bay area continue to not give this guy enough credit. First of all, we have a lot of different people watching on a lot of different platforms before we get into the Tom Brady situation. If you can please do me a favor, take one moment, hit the finger where it says share, and share this on your timeline so all your friends can have the opportunity to listen to us talk and interact on the show with later on. It'll be Coach Powell will be on. Like I said, you can interact with me. But remember, if you want your name to be used, you need to grant BeLive permission to use your name on the show. It's on Frankly Speaking right now. If you just arrow down on our Facebook page, you'll see the link to grant you permission. It takes 1 minute. But when we talk about Tom Brady, I want to take a look at Tom Brady a minute. And, for those of you people that are wondering, is Tom Brady washed up? What's going on with Tom Brady? This and that. I put up on the screen right now Tom Brady's statistics his last year in New England, which was 2019. Okay? If you look at his stats, he threw for just over 4,000 yards as a New England Patriot, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a 60.8% pass completion ratio. When you look at these stats, everybody's going, this is the guy we want. This is the guy we want. This is the guy we want. And believe me, with all due respect, it is the guy we wanted. Well, he comes over to Tampa Bay, and everybody, as far as Max Kellerman can go, I can tell him where to really go. But, you look at his statistics from this year, and they far exceed the statistics. Here's last year, folks. Here's this year's now. You go ahead, 2020 stats, Tom Brady, 4,600 yards, 600 yards more than he threw for as a Patriot last year, 40 touchdowns. Okay, interceptions were a little up, not making excuses, but, it was a new offense. He was learning it. And his completion ratio was up by 65.7%. So he went ahead and threw for more than 600 yards from last year. He went ahead and threw 17 more touchdowns, and he had a 5.7% higher passing ratio. How can anybody knock Tom Brady? All Tom Brady's been doing the entire year for the Buccaneers is helping them win and helping them focus and helping them on a path to the playoffs. This was a system in place. This was a process, and the process is just about completed heading into the playoffs. Here's a team 4-0 in their last 4 games, the hottest team in football, probably the hottest offensive team, I believe, in the last 4 games. Listen to this statistic. In the last 4 games, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers have averaged 31 points a game. That is huge, folks. Huge. That's huge. Okay, and when we look like this, I'm sorry, I was wrong. It's 37 points over the last whole game. And, if you want to really give an MVP out, and we talked about this, a little bit later, and we also talked about it, is the MVP of this team has to go to the offensive line. Has to go to the offensive line. This offensive line has been incredible. Whether somebody gets hurt and somebody comes in, whatever, has been incredible. Listen to this statistic by our offensive line this year. They have given up only 21 sacks. Only 21 sacks they have given up this year. If you go ahead and you go back in Tom Brady's 20-year career that he has played, there's only been 3 other seasons where he's been sacked less than 21 times. Only 3 seasons. How can't we give enough credit when credit due? Everybody was so worried about this offensive line at the beginning of the year. The offensive line, oh no, we're going to be hurting. What a great, great job. You don't hear anymore about Donovan Smith screwing up. Tristan Wirfs giving up 1 sack as a rookie this year. And, of course, everybody knows what Marpet and Jensen do on the interior line. What a great, great job. This offensive line deserves an MVP trophy for the performance they put on this year. And they're going to need to do it again. The key to Tom Brady being successful is for him to have a clean pocket. Everybody knows Tom Brady ain't a scrambler. You give him a clean pocket, and he's going to destroy you. You get him out of the pocket, and, it could be a long day. Now, so far, if you follow the point spread, Tampa Bay is favored by 8 in this game. 8 points as I move stuff around here again. So they are favored by 8 points in this game. Not that that means anything, but, just to give you an idea of what people are saying about this game. And, this is an important, don't take Washington as a team that is a slouch, because if you do, you're only fooling yourself. This is a good football team. This is a 7-9 football team that won 4 more games than they did last year. It's a good team. Ron Rivera. There's a lot of good field stories here. America's with this team right now. Yeah, Ron Rivera, who was fighting cancer, who what a trooper he is, and God bless him. I'm so happy that he's doing well. He's such a great guy. Was able to keep the team fired up throughout the year, manage all the obstacles he had to face. You got Alex Smith, the feel-good story. Almost died with a leg injury, and he's back playing football right now. When you look at this team, don't think of this team as an NFC East team that only won 7 games. What people don't remember is they lost those games with Allen and Haskins as their quarterback. When Alex Smith started games this year for the Washington football team, they are 5-1. They are 5-1 with Alex Smith. And they got, an unbelievable defense as well. Let's not forget that great defense, that great front 7 that they have. In all 7 victories, Washington has allowed 17 points or fewer. Listen to that again, 17 points or fewer. And at FedEx Field, when they've been playing at home, which obviously they'll be playing at home this weekend, they've only allowed 19 points a game. Now, they're led by a defense that is incredible. When you talk about one of the top-notch defenses in the league, you got to talk about the Washington football team. You have Chase Young, 7.5 sacks, and Montez Sweat, who had 9 sacks this year. Combined, they're an unbelievable duo, 16 sacks or 16 in the half sacks. They're averaging getting to the quarterback 3 times a game. 3 times a game they are averaging. And when you talk about this and you look at this team, it is going to come down to our offensive line versus their defensive line. There's no question about it. It's going to be the battle in the trenches and who can maintain the most. Can we protect Tom Brady? I think we should be able to. We are a better team. We are a better team than the Washington football team. Yet, you can't go into the playoffs taking things for granted. If you go into the playoffs and you think it's an automatic win, you're going to get your butt kicked. This is a good football team. You got to think of this team as any other team, and you can't look ahead. Now, we have a comment here. I want to get to one of our users. It says right here, do you think Chase's comments will make Tom play better? I think Wirfs can handle him. I don't think there's anybody in the league right now, and thank you so much for asking about that comment. I'm sorry you came up as a U-Book user, so I'm not sure who this comment is from. But I want to thank you for the comment. But I think Tristan Wirfs can play with anyone. He's only given up 1 sack the entire year, folks. Folks, that's for some of the greatest linemen in the National Football League in the NFC. And to do that is just remarkable for anybody to do it, yet a rookie. And we knew we were getting something very special with when we got Tristan Wirfs. As far as Chase Young making comments to Tom Brady doesn't really hear those things. Yeah, he commented on it, but Tom's been playing for 20 years. Tom's laughing. Tom has nothing but the uttermost respect for Chase Young. He said that, and we'll hear from Tom in a little bit. And we'll see if we can pull that up, his comments about what Chase said. But, for those of you that think that this is going to be an easy game. Please, please don't think that. This is a tough football team, and we are not perfect on the defensive side of the ball. Our cornerbacks still have some opportunities. Matt Ryan, again, seemed to pick them apart pretty easily the last 2 times he's played them when the Falcons were here the last 2 out of 3 weeks. But once again, like every game and like the last 2 games, we're going to need to jump on this team quickly. You know, we got to come out, we got to score, and it seems like when we score first, even though we still have some opportunities in the passing games, it still seems like when we score first, we get a little bit more aggressive, and we try a lot more different packages and blitz packages when we're ahead. Whereas when we're behind, we're too reluctant to do so. So the key to this game is going to be getting ahead. Let me see if I can pull up Tom Brady real quick here. I'm pulling it up right now so you guys, here we go. So we can hear some of his comments on Chase Young and his team.
Hands D-line, one of the best D-lines in the league. So Chase is a great young player. He went to Ohio State, so naturally I think the Ohio State-Michigan thing wears off on him a little bit. I understand that. But we're prepared for, a tough challenge, and should be a fun game.
All right, we'll go over to Greg Allman.
Hey, Tom, we talked about this even going back to September, but as you get settled with this team now, as you guys are clicking as an offense the way you have the last 2-3 games, I just want to ask you how much this feels like home, how much this feels like your team that you're working with, and how close you guys are as a group heading into this first playoff run.
Yeah, I'd say every week is getting, a little bit better and a little bit more consistent, and, better communication, and we're all understanding each other a little bit better each week. So, football season's tough. There's a lot of things to coordinate. There's a lot of moving parts. Different players are in and out. You're running different schemes. But I think we just tried to, not take the foot off the gas pedal and just try to understand each other a little bit better each week and try to put ourselves in a decent position. And anytime we make the playoffs,
it's a good feeling.
It's a good feeling.
It's a great opportunity.
It's a great opportunity to be playing this weekend.
A privilege, I think, for all of us. And I think we want to go make the most of it.
So,
playoff football is pretty special to be a part of. And I'll be excited out there Saturday night.
I'll go to Granger region.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi, Karen. Long time no see.
I know. It's been a while. I miss you in New England.
I appreciate it.
I was just wondering, are you experiencing the usual butterflies heading into the postseason, or are the feelings any different being with a different team?
Yeah, I think over the year, you just got to deal with different, a lot of different things that kind of have come up with me being in a different place. And today, for example, was 60 plus degrees at practice for a playoff game. So I haven't had too many of those, even in 20 years. But I just think it's a lot of different different newness, but still the same excitement to be ready to go out there and take a bunch of teammates and go up against, go on the road in the playoffs is a tough thing to do. So we're a team that's made a bunch of improvements over the course of the year, and we have to be at our best. And that's what this season's all about. So regular season is what it is. I think you realize put it in the books. But we're here to win playoff games.
And that was Tom Brady talking earlier today about the game, the playoff game coming up. And you hear it's playoffs. And everybody starts 0-0. The thing about this is you get one loss. And that's why I said this is a good Washington football team. And we're a couple minutes away from having Coach Couch Powell come on, Chris Coach Couch Powell, and we'll talk to him a little bit about this defense, about Alex Smith. So we got a lot to talk about. But before we get to to Chris, I want to go ahead and we heard a little bit from Todd Bowles today, and I want to see if I can go ahead and find that for you. If I didn't send there we go. Well, let's go ahead and play a quick clip from Todd Bowles today about what he thinks.
Hey, Todd, I am going to ask you about the playoff game, I promise. But let me start with there was a report about you interviewing with the Atlanta Falcons sometime next week. Can you comment on that at all?
Yeah, that's true. Right now, I'm focusing on the playoff game, and that'll come in time, and I'll deal with that then.
Let me ask you that Ron Rivera has raised the possibility of both Alex Smith and his other quarterback playing in the same game. I guess that'd be up to him when they would do that. Is that an extra layer of preparation for you guys? How different is their offense when Alex isn't there?
I mean, it's pretty much the same offense, so we'll prepare as normal, and whichever quarterback plays.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go to Jenna Lane.
Hey, Coach. I know you had a really wild week last week with having to stay home and everything, having to do stuff virtually. Just how relieved are you to be able to get back into the building and be able to do your job in a normal capacity without all those restrictions?
I mean, it feels great. Obviously, everybody's dealing with it, and the league's dealing with it, and you kind of got to make do as well. So the coaches did a great job while I was out, and it's just good to be back in the building.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go over to Greg Allman.
Todd, it looks like you won't be as short-handed on Saturday, at least getting Shaq Barrett back. But I was just going to ask you how you felt like the guys that had to step up, whether it be Minter, whether it be corners, whether it be depth on defensive line, how they held up under the circumstances on Sunday.
I thought those guys played tough. Obviously, they're different type of players than the ones that are out, but I thought they played tough, and the next man mentality, they came up and made some plays and helped us win the game.
The young guys on D-line, we saw Portawai for the first time, saw Khalil for only, I think, the second game. How did they hold up in the small time they were out there?
They did some good things. They did something that we got to work on, but overall they fought, and that was the best thing they did right there. They fought, and they gave us some chance to make some plays, so the experience will come.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Next up is going to be Luke Easterling.
Todd, I think a lot of people, when they look at this matchup, have been focused on Washington's defense in terms of what they do really well. But I know they've got some unsure situation at quarterback. But in terms of playmakers, when you look at guys like Terry McLaurin, when you look at Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, what do they present to you in terms of difficulties because of how versatile and athletic they are?
No, they present a ton of problems. Also, they have McKissick as well, and they got both Sims guys that play very well. But McLaurin can run every route. He can run the route tree. He's very fast. He's very polished. He can do a lot of things. Thomas has become a very good tight end in this league, working his way in from a quarterback. He throws it. He runs routes. He blocks well. And, between Gibson and McKissick coming out of the backfield, both used to play wide receiver as well as run the ball. So they present a lot of matchup problems that way.
And in terms of the team overall, you've got, quite a few guys that have come from other teams that have a lot of playoff experience and have had a lot of success. You've also got a lot of guys that have been with this team for a long time that have not experienced that yet. What's been the kind of the vibe or the energy in the locker room that's kind of mixed up in that way? A lot of guys that have been there before and a lot of guys that have been waiting for this opportunity.
Well, it's been great for the guys that's been here a while, like Levante, and hadn't gone to the playoffs and gone for the first time. So very happy for him and hope to continue that if we win the ball game. And for the young guys that's just getting here for the first time, try to make sure they relish and cherish the opportunity, because a lot of guys have played their whole careers and haven't gone to the playoffs. So we got to make the most of it.
Okay, that was Todd Bowles talking about the upcoming game versus Washington football team and what he thinks and how he respects especially the offensive side of the ball of the Washington football team. Now, when we come back from break, we're going to have Chris Couch Coach Powell, who is the host and owner of Couch Coach Live, does some Redskin podcasts, is going to be joining us. And then afterwards, we got a special broadcast announcement that just came down on a very, very special guest that we will have to talk about Buccaneer football tomorrow, which we will announce after our conversation with Coach Powell. Well, let's go to a quick commercial break here. And then when we come back, we'll get Coach Powell on with us. Ladies and gentlemen, do you ever want to go to an AMC movie theater? Do you want to go to a restaurant and take your sweetheart out? Well, you know what? Why not do it at a discounted price? Go to apexgiftcard.com. That's right, apexgiftcard.com. You go ahead in the promo code, type in Frankly Speaking, capital F, one word, Frankly Speaking, and they'll give you a 10% discount on all your gift card purchases. I better be careful. Coach Powell might be listening to this. You never know. He may go right to apexgiftcard.com right now and order these unbelievable gift cards for well-named department stores, well-named restaurants. So go to apexgiftcard.com.
All right, let's see what we got in the mailbox this week.
Let's see what we got. It's nice and sunny out today.
It is. All right. Oh, we got a big game this week. So
huge.
It's the Game Face Challenge.
Oh, wow.
Hold on. Hold on, Tom.
Okay.
I just need some vitamin D.
Oh, smart.
I'm training my eyes today, not my nose.
So good. All right, stay protected. Oh, that looks good. Oh, it's perfect. You got it perfect. So you ready? You want to count down or you want me?
Yeah. You count down.
Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
My eyes are watered. The sun's in my eyes.
I'm seeing 3
I
of you.
see like 3 of you.
You blanked.
No, I didn't.
I did too.
I think we both won.
I think we're both ready.
I think our game faces are ready.
I called a tie.
We don't want to scare too many opponents.
We'll save it for them.
All right.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. So glad to have everyone. We're about 30 seconds away from having Chris Couch Coach Powell come on with us and talk about this upcoming game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington football team. For those of you all that are listening, if you can please do me a quick favor, would you go ahead, just share this to your timeline. It'll take 1 second. Share it to your timeline. Share it to your friends. If you have Washington fans, they probably want to listen to it as well. So go ahead and share it. And we're looking forward right now to bring in a very, very special guest. He is the host of Couch Coach Live and the owner, which means he does what the heck he wants to do when he wants to do it. Let's welcome in Chris Couch Coach Powell. Coach, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, Larry? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very, very well.
Oh, good, good. First of all, I want to thank you, and I know it was short notice for coming on tonight. I mean, it's a real honor to have you on.
Absolutely. Definitely appreciate the opportunity.
You know, I want to ask you a question. You know, after last year's season with, well, I guess at that time they were the Redskins, but the Washington, and I still have that habit, so I'll probably say it a couple of times throughout this broadcast. You know, the Washington football team won 4 less games last year than they won this year. Did you ever in your wildest dreams after last year think that the Redskins had the potential to make the playoffs in 2020?
You know what's funny, Larry? It was weird. I figured this team was going to have somewhat of they were going to at least double their wins. I didn't think that it was going to take 7 wins to actually win this division. I figured there was going to be some kind of at least, you know, an increase of wins. Playoffs, I definitely didn't think we were going to make the playoffs. I figured we were going to make leaps and bounds. And what's the irony of it is I really thought that holiday stretch between the Dallas game and the Seattle game, pretty much sandwiched between Thanksgiving and Christmas. I thought that was going to be the run that do us in, but that in theory was the run that propelled us to the playoffs.
Now, let me ask you, for all the fans out there, and I mean, I know you saw it obviously Sunday night, the game between Philadelphia and Washington. For all those fans out there, and I always say, if you want to get in the playoffs, you control your destiny. Don't let somebody else control your own destiny. And you saw a great example of that on Sunday night. But to those fans out there, whether they're Giants fans or fans throughout the U.S. that say Washington backed into the playoffs, what do you say to those fans?
Hey, it is what it is. We've been in situations before in the past where we had pretty much win and we in and we lost. Especially if we look at Giants fans, the same situation happened to us 4 years ago where essentially we was winning. Those guys benched everybody, pretty much bring out the cavalry of third string guys, and we still lost a football game. That's on us. That's on us because the simple fact we didn't take care of business. And the same thing with the Giants. I understand how they felt, but then it was weird because you got to think about it. Even though Nate Sudfeld is 4 years removed from being a member of the Washington football team, he was a former guy that got traded to the Eagles kind of in a weird way, like right before the preseason. So it kind of be, one of those situations where, it would have been kind of weird to think that a guy that used to play for this team would actually prepare Philly to a victory. So to me, it is what it is. They had plenty of opportunities to take care of business. I mean, they won 6 games. So to me, you guys beat us twice. So you did what you had to do. There was plenty of opportunities where you could have got your 7th victory, but hey, you won 6 games. It's not like a situation where we were both like 10-6. Like I can see like a Miami that was 10-6 and we were 10-6 or 11-5. Yeah, I understand that, but you were 6-10.
Yeah, and this team, and I tell people because I watch Washington as well, is not, you can call them a 7-9 team, but to me, they have a defense of a top-notch football team, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But I want to ask you, because, we have the last thing we heard versus the last thing you're hearing up there on Alex Smith and his calf injury.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of weird, like especially now with Ron Rivera talking about he's going to have somewhat of a 2 quarterback type of rotation. Now you think of Wednesday, that's kind of like one of the tea leaves and make you think like Alex is not 100%, even though we know he wasn't 100%. But the fact that he's even talking about this now and we're Wednesday, we're like, the week is halfway over. So to me, you only have a few practices left. And for me, that you're even saying that Taylor Heineke might get a few snaps, that's very daunting.
Yeah, and when you look at this team and you look at Alex Smith, I don't think a lot of the fans out there realize that this team has won out of the 5 out of the 7 wins that Washington has this year came when Alex Smith started the game. How important is Alex Smith as a quarterback to this Washington team?
He's vital. He's, when we look at as far as on the offense, he's the captain of our team. He's just one of those type of guys where it's something about him. It brings everybody up to par. When you got a guy like him who had 17 surgeries, almost lost his life, hell, almost lost his leg, and for him to kind of play in this position where essentially, when we talk about the beginning of the season, this guy was in street clothes. He was our 3rd string quarterback, and for me, if you don't. To me, on that team, he has to galvanize you. Like, to me, you can't, like, sit there and say, hey, I have an excuse, this, and the third. You have to perform. When you got a guy like Alex Smith who's been through it all, you have to up your game. Like, he's just that leader. Like, he's a leader by example in more ways than one.
Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball before we get to the defense. This game, obviously, especially with the calf injury and the leg injury to Alex Smith, we know he can't scramble. We know he has to stay in the pocket. And you're probably facing, besides, right up there with the Washington team, another team that has just an incredible front 7. I mean, how does this offensive line try to control that defensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
And I think that's going to be the trickiest of the matchups because you look at, and it's funny because they're really stout on the run. And it's so funny because to me, the iron of it all, because I remember when they lost Vita Vea, and I was thinking like, oh man, like this is gonna really hurt Tampa Bay, but they've been rolling ever since. You look at, like you say, the front seven is just amazing when you look at guys like Devin White, JPP, Dominic Sue, and those guys. And they're very stout on the run, which I think they're averaging like they're giving opponents like less than 4 yards per carry, which is very daunting, especially on this team that's really predicated on the run. That's another daunting thing. And then also with our offensive line is really shaky. And like you said, that team is forced so many I think they have like 44 sacks on the season or something like that. Some of that nature where they're tops one of the top teams as far as committing sacks. That's going to be an issue as far as, and it's just, I just want to see how they overcome that, because especially that front seven is just daunting. And just imagine now, and then even without a Vita Vea, they're still formidable. And that's amazing. That's a testament to Tampa's.
Yeah, and when you look at these teams, you don't hear much about the offense of the Washington football team, but what people don't remember, they got a receiver on this team that is, to me, one of the most incredible receivers in the NFL, in Terry McLaurin. I mean, he had, I think, over 1,100 yards receiving, 87 receptions. I mean, this is a guy who can make some big plays when big plays need to be made for the Washington football team.
Absolutely. He's another guy I look at, and then I look at the Sims, not brothers, but Cam and Steven. I think they can kind of add a little versatility there as well. And then you look at a guy like Logan Thomas, who now has now become a bona fide tight end. The former quarterback now has become, and it's funny, he was a Bruce Arians guy. He was one of those, Bruce Arians kind of pet project in Arizona. Now he's become a formidable tight end in this league. And then also J.D. McKessick. He's kind of like a crafty, shifty running back, and also can kind of catch passes on the backfield. So that's one thing too. That's when it kind of becomes kind of interesting as far as when you talk about, like, as far as a lot of people really look at this team as kind of a defensive team, but they do kind of have some playmakers that are, that can get the job done.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think they're very underrated because their defense is so great. And as we flip sides, Coach, and we go to the defensive side, this is a defense. Listen to these, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but in their 7 victories this year, they've given up 17 or fewer points in all 7 victories. And at home, they've only given up an average of 19 points a game. That's something right there. I mean, that speaks volumes right there.
Big time. And it's just one of those things where that's essentially, like we talked about earlier, like being the calling card, because essentially that's what keeps this team in, where you can have, like we talked about on offense, that defense pretty much predicate what the offense can do, where, as far as, what that is concerned. The defense, like we talked about, the defensive line is very impressive. The thing I'm really curious about in this matchup, because Tampa Bay offensive line has been pretty well. Like, they've kept Tom Brady pretty clean. I think they've only allowed 22 sacks, which and when you look at the secret sauce to beat Tom Brady is to have pressure. So that's another thing where you look at it, and they've kept him pretty clean. So I look at that defense, and I like what our defense, and the beauty of it too. We've kind of had a knack of turning the ball over as well. Like, we've had such situations, like we've had like with Montez Sweat, as far as the fumble recovery against Dallas, Chase Young as well in a few of those games, and also our rookie Cameron Curl, some very pivotal touchdowns. Also, he ran one back in the San Francisco game. So you look at this team now, the biggest key, especially in this one, is forcing turnovers. So I look at the thing is where, especially in this one, you look at it from paper on paper. we're severely overmatching a lot of categories, and I think those like little things like turnovers, as far as getting pressure to the quarterback, those are the things that are kind of have kept us in these ball games.
Yeah, and you mentioned about Brady. I think he's had 21 or 22 sacks only this year. And if you look at his 20-year career, there was only 3 times in his 20-year career that he was sacked less. So that just tells you how good this questionable offensive line at the beginning of the year has done for the Buccaneers.
Yes.
But the one thing when you say about different areas and you talk about getting beat that you really got to question because it's pretty even is you have what I call the sack masters between Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I mean, one of them has 7.5, the other has 9 sacks. Talk about this duo and how special and how much they add to that defense.
Oh, it's tremendous, and it's funny. It's funny, and we're talking now with Tampa. It kind of reminds me of like Warren Sapp. And I remember he's just always just coin phrases, "Meet me at the quarterback." And I look at those guys on the outside. I'm like, wow. When this team was formulated as far as the drafting of Chase Young, I thought about Montez Sweat in the back of my mind. I'm like, wow, they literally can be like, hey, meet me at the quarterback. And that's going to be such a dynamic duo where you can have a situation where you can double one of those guys, but somebody's going to be free. So that's what I think that's going to be very interesting of how that plays out. I love it. And it just, like you said, it goes back to Warren Sapp, his coin phrase, meet me at the quarterback. And I think, that's going to be something that we're going to look forward to going forward for this team. And man, it's going to be some great years if, everything goes to play.
And when you look at this Buccaneer team on offense, I mean, what can you say? Everywhere you look at this team, there's an all-pro or something. I mean, from the receiver, just when one receiver seems like he's hurt, another one pops out and grows somewhere. I mean, it's incredible the weapons they have. And, a two-part question is, first of all, as a defense, how do you expect them to handle all these different weapons? And then talk about the 2 young guys on the defense that I've been impressed with. You mentioned one of them, Carmen Curl, who led the team with 59 solo tackles. And another guy, it looks like Kendall Fuller has 4 interceptions, which obviously both of them are going to need to be on their A game if they have any chance of stopping these weapons.
Big time. Yeah, and like you said, going to you guys with your offense, they're another team where it's just like they have so many weapons. And then the one I'm really most impressed and the one that kind of is scary, Antonio Brown. I think even coming in the midseason, he's already, and now he's starting to kind of come into his own. Now I think he has 4 touchdowns on the season, which is amazing coming in, midseason at this point. So the thing is, like you said, I think Cameron Curl, he's another guy that like he has a knack. Like he's definitely doing a great job, especially filling in for Landon Collins, who, as far as in that situation, in that safety spot. Kendall, I love Kendall. Kendall Fuller is, I always say, I think he's one of I'm glad that he's back. He was a part of the Alex Smith trade in 2018, so I'm glad he's back. He also has a step up as well. I've been impressed with them, with those 2 guys as well. And then I really want to see what Ronald Darby's going to do. Ronald Darby's kind of, he's hot and cold. Like he did pretty good last week. Then, I think in the Carolina game, he kind of was a little iffy. I want to see what those guys do. And also a guy who I really want to see he has so much potential. And I think he's kind of on the cusp of being a greatness, Jimmy Moreland. I want to see what he does in this matchup as well, because I mean, like you said, they have playmakers. I mean, you think about, if Evans is healthy, good Chris Godwin, and then Gronk, then Antonio Brown. Like you have talent, on all sides of the ball. So, this is we're somewhat of a unique situation where we really haven't had this type as far as playmakers on various ends of the field. So it's going to be a definitely interesting matchup. And I definitely hope my guys, like we're talking about Kendall, also Jimmy, step up, and then also obviously Cameron, Curl, and Ronald Darby.
And, if you look at this game, is it safe to say, Coach, that this is a game, no matter which team wins, it's going to be won in the trenches? The offensive lines and defensive lines, respectively, of each team that holds the other team better is going to win this game?
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be, it's going to be a telling sign, because if Brady's successful, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get to Brady. So if you look at for that matchup, and if Washington has its way with Tom Brady, as far as kind of essentially pressure him in the pocket, that's another when you look at the trenches and on the both sides as well, where if Washington is successful on the ground or even in passing, it's predicated on their offensive line versus Tampa's defensive line. It's definitely in the trenches, and this is going to be a definitely interesting game, but it's definitely going to be one in the trenches, no doubt.
Now talk about it, and it's a great story, Coach. About Ron Rivera. He's there. He comes in, like you said, almost double wins, more than double wins, technically. Right.
Yep.
What is Ron Rivera and the whole situation? I mean, here's a guy that comes in that's a great head coach, was let go by Carolina. Then he gets cancer, and despite getting cancer, still coaches. I mean, just incredible to begin with. I mean, what can you say about him?
Man, I tell you, I love Coach Ron Rivera, and it's funny. And I remember when he was with Carolina, I remember it was a situation in 2013. They lost to Buffalo by like a point. And I remember people were killing like him, like as far as like, oh, we need to get rid of him. And I was like, you know what? He's going to weather the storm, because he's just that type of guy. He's just tough. And I've always followed him, even in Carolina. And then the fact for him to get fired and for him to get to here, which I was like, is great, because especially with everything that's going outside of the organization, you need somebody like him who has that toughness. And I told people, as far as fans and whoever, it's people who follow the team, Ron is going to do things that are going to piss you off sometimes, but he knows what he's doing. I remember like the whole situation with Trent Williams, how he handled that. I didn't like that per se. And then even early in the year, I didn't like as far as the whole situation with Dwayne Haskins, how he pulled him after the Ravens game. But I always said to myself, keep the faith. Ron knows what he's doing. He's Riverboat Ron for a reason. He's the kind of one of those guys that you need, especially in this organization where the organization is just in chaos outside of the field.
Absolutely.
So you need a guy like him who can weather the storm. You want a guy who has that toughness. And he's a guy that he's a player's coach, but people will run through a wall for him. And I remember the farewell his press conference was Carolina, and I've seen how emotional that was and how everybody in the building was just so emotional for him to leave. And I was like, this is who we need. This is who we need, who is going to be the face of this franchise going forward, because everything outside of the field, we don't know what the hell's going on with this organization. But to me, at least you have a guy like him as a figurehead that we know that's going to be here. He's going to ride the storm, and it's funny. This team is indicative of him, and it's almost. And I don't want to kind of have like the Carolina like keep pounding type of mentality, but he's taking on this personality. Like as far as we're a scrappy, tough team. Like we're like the Alley Cats. We're the team essentially where we're not supposed to be here, but we scratch it and clawing week in and week out, and we're getting it done. And that's the beauty of this team, where they're taking on the personality of Ron Rivera. And there was a lot of things, and he's going to do things going forward. It's going to be a couple things every year that we're going to look at and be like, what the hell is he doing? But we have to trust in him because he's Riverboat Ron.
Yeah, and you mentioned the disarray this team is in from a general manager standpoint and ownership with Daniel Snyder, which is a whole other topic for another day.
Yes.
When there was a time where someone had to step up and become that leader that you were looking for, the perfect guy, took into the perfect situation, Ron Rivera. And you talk about the unbelievable defense you have. Well, no wonder why. Look who the head coach is. Probably one of the best defenses of all time with the Chicago Bears. So that was a surprise. But you're right. If anything here is, how many teams are out there that are structured that didn't make the playoffs versus a team that, like you said, that doesn't even know what the right or left hand is doing? But the bottom line is you play the game on the field. And that's what Ron Rivera has this team doing, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this in closing, Coach. Game, we're getting close to Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. I looked at the temperature. The low is only 28 degrees. Thank goodness. But tell me the keys real quickly, a couple of key points in order for Washington to prevail or the Buccaneers to prevail in this game.
Number one, pressure to Tom Brady. That's one of the keys. Also, don't commit mistakes. You're in a point where don't commit crazy turnovers. Don't do nothing stupid. Control the turnovers. Essentially, don't throw the ball over in different situations. Force turnovers. Get pressure to Tom Brady. Kill the clock as far as offensively, as far as where we can essentially try to get a next healthy dose of Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic going. Kind of get them going. I think we really need to set up the run first. I know this is opposite of last week where I said the pass, but really set up the run first and then see what you can do as far as throwing the ball. But I think really it's more so getting pressure to Brady, forcing turnovers, and running the football.
Yep. All right, my friend. Well, listen, we'll find out soon enough. I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on Frankly Speaking Sports tonight.
Absolutely. Definitely appreciate it, Larry. Always a pleasure. Definitely thanks for reaching out. And hey, man, it was a great time talking with you.
You too, my friend. Be safe, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. That was Coach Powell on with us. A lot of good points, a lot of great points he made. If you want to, we got about 6-7 minutes left in the show. I see plenty of people on for this show tonight, so thank you very much. Go ahead and leave a comment. I'm looking at comments now. We basically answered all of it, but if you like any questions or you have any thoughts that you'd like me to answer in the next 5, 6, 7 minutes, be more than happy to do so. We do have some breaking broadcasting news for you tomorrow night. It's, of course, we go Monday through Thursday, Tuesday being our USF show. And if you didn't see our show Bullseye last night, we put a recording on Bullseye and Frankly Speaking Sports of the terrific conversation we had with University of South Florida Vice President of Athletics, Michael Kelly. You need to listen to the interview. What a great interview. If you want to know anything about it, about the financial status of USF, about the graduation of USF, about, the indoor football facility and how that's coming, all those questions were asked last night on the show. Go ahead, listen to it. You'll love it. Now, as far as tomorrow night, we have a very, very special guest. You want to tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I said to myself, who would be a great person to get on? Whether it was a previous guest or not a previous guest. It's 13 years. The Bucs haven't been to the playoffs 13 years. Who deserves to come on this show to talk to me more about it than our good buddy, Big Nasty? Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., Big Nasty, Keith Kunzig will be joining us live. That's right, Big Nasty right here on Frankly Speaking Sports. Make sure you tune in at 9 p.m. Eastern time for this special event We'll break down the game from the Buccaneers side with Big Nasty. We'll talk about what we need to do to prevail this weekend in Washington, D.C. So that's definitely a show you want to watch. As we look at some of the messages here, okay, we answered that. All right, I'm just moving some things around here. See if we get some messages in the next comments. I'm sorry, messages, whatever. Go ahead, leave a quick comment. We got about a little under 5 minutes left. We can talk about that, but we talked about the keys of the game. What the Bucs need to do. Well, a lot about what Washington needs to do. But once again, it's going to come down to how well we can contain Alex Smith and not allow him to go ahead and complete passes to Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's a great receiver, and there's been receivers before throughout the year that have picked our defense apart. So it's going to come down to that passing defense because, as far as on the field, and I think Coach Powell said it best, they're outmatched. Washington is outmatched. But, when you're dealing with a young team like Washington that has a lot of first and second year players on that team, they have nothing to lose. They come into these games saying, we got nothing to lose. They don't realize it. They're naive to the fact that they're not supposed to win, and you never know what happens. Sometimes they bring their A game, and oops, look what happened. There's a game you got to come out, you got to play. You can't think of the following week. You have to take these 4 steps to the 3 steps before you get to the 4th step, which is the Super Bowl. And this is step number 1. We have to climb this step to get to step number 2. And, we know what our offense can do. We know our offense is most likely going to be on. The key to the game is going to be putting pressure on Smith because he's not mobile and being able to defensively, protect against the pass. And they haven't, they don't have an 1,100-yard receiver for nothing, who's caught 87 passes on the year. They also have Logan Thomas, which scored 72 receptions for 670 yards and 6 touchdowns. So they do have some playmakers on this team. Please, please, please don't be fooled by this 7-9 record. Now, I'm not sitting here saying we're not going to win this game. We should win this game, and we should win by a couple of touchdowns. But for you to think that they have no players, they were 5-1 when Alex Smith started. 5-1. Okay, they may not have looked great on Sunday night. That's one game. There's games we didn't look good before. So we just need to make sure that, we just don't take these things lightly or take them for granted. And just because on paper we look better, the game is not played on paper. The game is played on a 100-yard football field. And that's where we have to do our execution and best job is on the football field. And if we do the things that we are capable of doing, the things we've done the last 4 weeks, we should prevail. Remember, I said this all throughout the year. It's not the team that necessarily has the best record. It's the team going into the playoffs that is playing the best football. And when you say which team in the NFL right now is playing the best football, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to be on top of that list as they won their last 4 games in a row. It doesn't matter who you played. It doesn't matter who you played before. Everybody is a football team. You don't play in the National Football League without being good. As long as our game plan is good and we execute that game plan, we don't make stupid mental mistakes, which we haven't in the last 4 games, we're going to be successful. Basically, what I'm saying is we need to play the same type of football that we've been playing the last 4 weeks, and we will prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very, very much for joining us tonight on Frankly Speaking Sports. Tomorrow night, once again, we will have Big Nasty joining us to talk more about this upcoming playoff game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Washington football team.